Have you ever walked away from a conversation with a knot in your chest, replaying the moment, asking yourself, why did I let them speak to me that way? Rudeness has a way of cutting deeper than we admit. It isn't just the words, it's the tone, the smirk, the way they test your silence to see if you'll fold. Some people throw insults like stones, not to reveal truth, but to feel taller by making you shrink. They expect you to laugh it off, to swallow the sting, to carry the weight quietly. But there comes a point when silence no longer feels like peace. It feels like self-betrayal. The Stoics knew this tension well. True strength isn't in meeting fire with fire, or in letting ego rush to defend itself. It's in holding your ground with calm precision, saying less but meaning more. Because sometimes the sharpest response isn't loud, it's still, steady, and undeniable. Stay with me. What follows may not just change how you face rude people, it may change how you face yourself in those moments. As we step into the first chapter, picture this: a room full of people, voices blending into the usual hum of workplace chatter, when suddenly one voice slices through, sharp, mocking, designed not to question but to cut. You feel the sting, not on your skin, but in your chest, the kind of blow that lingers long after the words have left the air. And in that frozen moment, you're left with a choice. Do you shrink and smile through the insult, or do you rise with calm defiance? Now imagine the weight of being tested again and again. Some people don't seek clarity. They seek your breaking point. They prod until silence feels less like peace and more like betrayal. I know this role too well. For years I wore it like a uniform, the peacekeeper, the one who bit their tongue, the one who nodded politely, who laughed at barbed jokes, who carried the burden of keeping harmony while quietly allowing dignity to erode. On the surface, I seemed calm. Inside, that silence was rotting. The Stoics warned us of this danger. Seneca wrote, "A man who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary." When you hold back words that should be spoken, when you mistake avoidance for composure, you suffer twice, once from the insult itself, and again from the echo of your own silence. Politeness becomes poison, stillness becomes surrender, and dignity begins to decay from within. My turning point came in a meeting. There was a man, let's call him Colin. He thrived on performance, not substance. Always late, always loud, always armed with sarcasm disguised as confidence. On that day, I stood before the group, presenting weeks of work, strategy, analysis, thought, carefully built into every slide. And, as the room quieted, Colin smirked, leaned back, and with all the arrogance of a man who had never carried real weight, he spat out, "Do you even understand what you're saying? Sounds like a lot of fluff to me." Time slowed. A burn rose through me. Every nerve, every instinct whispered the same command, say it now, and I did. Not with fire, but with steel, calm, clear, grounded. I looked him in the eye and said, "I'm not the one. Try someone who tolerates nonsense." Silence followed, heavy, undeniable. His smirk vanished. No one laughed, no one defended him, because in truth, they had all been waiting for someone to draw the line. That day, I did. Here's what no leadership seminar will teach you. Rude people are rarely powerful. They are simply unchallenged. They survive on borrowed courage, fed by silence, enabled by those too polite to stop them. But when you disrupt that cycle, not with rage, not with shouting, but with composure, you strip away their stage. You strip away the illusion of control. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Rude people violate both truths at once. They throw words not as truth, but as weapons. They fill the air not with reason, but with noise, and what terrifies them most is someone who refuses to dance to their chaos. Think about it. Some people thrive on storm because they've never known peace. They interrupt not because they're bold, but because silence terrifies them. They insult not because they see clearly, but because looking inward frightens them. Their aggression is not strength. It is noise, and noise only carries power until someone dares to stand still. Don't match their volume. Don't play their game. One calm line is enough. One steady sentence, delivered like a scalpel rather than a sword, is enough to remind them, "You've mistaken my silence for weakness." That ends here. And yes, when you begin setting boundaries, expect resistance. They will say, "You've changed." Let them. They will call you difficult. Let them. They will resent the mirror you place before them because your composure reveals their disorder. That is not your burden to carry. You were not born to shoulder the fragile pride of insecure egos. You were born to protect your peace. And peace, my friend, is not a gift you wait for. It is a discipline you practice. So the next time someone cuts you with sarcasm when they puff themselves up by trying to shrink you in front of others, don't flinch. Don't raise your voice. Don't play their game. Look them in the eye, steady and unshaken, and let the words fall clear and precise. Try someone else. I'm not the one. Because the day you stop explaining yourself to those who disrespect you is the day you reclaim your power. And once you taste that kind of clarity, that kind of silence, you will see why it is unforgettable. Moving into the second chapter, imagine this. You create something that matters to you, a piece of work, a thought, a spark you've carried quietly for months. You place it into the world, fragile but alive, and before it can even take its first breath, someone leans in with a smirk and whispers, "Cringe." Is this really what you want to put out there? It's not feedback. It's not guidance. It's a stone tossed with a smile, designed not to sharpen you, but to rattle you. And in that moment, most of us do what we've been trained to do. We shrink, we defend, we over-explain, we try to prove that what we've made is worthy. But here's the truth. When you start defending your soul to someone who hasn't built anything of their own, you've already surrendered the battle. Their opinion becomes a hook, and your peace becomes the bait. The Stoics saw this trap clearly. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." Most people confuse their voice with authority. They believe that because they said it, you must absorb it. But not every opinion deserves entry into your mind. Not every comment deserves a seat at your table. Your soul is not a forum. I learned this in the quietest way. There was a man I once knew, let's call him Derek. He was the master of backhanded compliments, a collector of sarcasm dressed up as concern. He never built anything real, but he always had something to say about what others built. One day, after I had poured months of energy into a creative idea and finally shared it, Derek left his signature mark. This feels kind of cringe. Are you sure this is the vibe you want to go for? The old me would have rushed to explain. I would have laid out the reasons, defended every detail, begged for approval I didn't even need. But that day, I didn't. I looked at his words. I felt the silence in my chest, and then I answered with something new. I'm not offended. I just don't value your opinion enough to care. No anger, no sarcasm, just clarity. The kind of clarity that cuts deeper than rage ever could. The kind of clarity that doesn't swing like a sword, but slices like light through fog. Because the truth is simple. When someone hasn't dared to enter the arena, Their judgment of the fight means nothing. They are shouting from the sidelines, not bleeding on the ground. And yet, too often, we live as though their voices are law. Have you noticed this? The loudest critics are almost always the furthest from the fire. They don't risk, they don't create, they don't build, they only spectate. And when you let them in, when you let their words shape your path, you give them the very power they lack. But when you answer with calm indifference, when you say with stillness, "I'm not offended. I just don't value your opinion enough," you turn the stage light back on them, and suddenly it is they who look small. Here's the deeper Stoic lesson. Your mind is your domain. Protect it. Guard it as you would guard the gates of a city, because once noise gets inside, chaos rules. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid," meaning let them laugh, let them misunderstand, let them sneer. Their mockery cannot touch you if you do not grant it passage. What shakes most people is not insult itself, but the hidden fear that the insult is true. When you know who you are, that fear dies. And this is where power begins, not in proving yourself, not in chasing applause, but in realizing that not everyone earns access to your emotional energy. It's not arrogance, it's self-respect. It's the quiet declaration, "Your voice is not my compass. My path is my own." Next time envy hides in a joke, pause, smile. Say it steady, "I'm not offended. I just don't value your opinion," because nothing unsettles the insecure more than a person who no longer needs their permission to exist. And nothing is more liberating than walking forward, unshaken, while their voices fade behind you like echoes in an empty hall. Advancing to the third chapter, picture this. A crowded room, alive with chatter, glasses clinking, laughter spilling in waves, and then one voice cuts across it all. Not to connect, not to build, but to carve. A jab wrapped in sarcasm, a cheap shot dressed as wit. And you feel the room lean toward it, waiting for your reaction, as though the performance is only complete if you flinch. Here's where the illusion shatters. Not every insult is born of truth. Many are born of hunger. Hunger for relevance, hunger for recognition, hunger for someone, anyone to notice. It isn't about you at all. It's about the void inside them that silence cannot fill. So they turn to noise. They aim at your clothes, your work, your stillness, your very light. They jab, hoping cruelty will pass for cleverness. But look closer. Behind the smirk, what you really see is not boldness, it's desperation. The Stoics knew this theatre well. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." And Epictetus warned that the ones who provoke us often reveal their own turmoil, not ours. To answer with fury is to play the part they've written for you, but to answer with clarity, that is to hold up a mirror. I remember one night, a gathering that should have been simple, good people, good energy, nothing heavy, until Ethan, the man who always needed to be the center of orbit, stepped in. He had his script ready, loud jokes at other people's expense, cheap shots tossed like coins into the air. Everyone laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was easier. And then his eyes turned toward me. "Still working on that little project of yours? Must be nice to have so much free time." The old me would have laughed it off, or worse, explained myself. But that night, I didn't. I looked at him, smiled slowly and said, "That's a strange way to beg for attention. Do you need a hug or something?" The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was clean. The room saw it for what it was, not wit, not charm, just insecurity in disguise. Ethan shrank, not because I'd cut him down, but because I'd exposed the act. This is the Stoic truth. People who chip at others are usually drowning in fears they've never faced. They throw insults to distract from their own stagnation. They get loud because the quiet would force them to confront who they are when no one's watching. They don't fear being insulted. They fear being seen. And that is why this line carries such weight. That's a strange way to beg for attention. It doesn't attack. It exposes. It places a mirror where they expected a battlefield. They come for fire, and instead they meet still water. And nothing unnerves ego more than its own reflection. Look around our world today. Shock and sarcasm are mistaken for substance. People will say reckless things, not because they believe them, but because they crave reaction. Outrage is their oxygen. And when you refuse to give it, when you meet their chaos with clarity, everything shifts. They expect noise. What they receive is truth, delivered without malice, without volume, with nothing but stillness and precision. So the next time someone reaches for you with a cheap joke, a veiled insult, or a smirk designed to shrink you, don't rise to match them. Don't argue, don't explain, just smile, tilt your head, and calmly say, "That's a strange way to beg for attention." Then watch what happens. The performance ends, the noise collapses, and what remains is not your defeat, but their reflection, something they cannot laugh away. Because in the end, the power is not in shouting louder. The power is in revealing without rage the hunger behind the mask. And once exposed, it no longer owns the room. It fades, and you remain calm, unshaken, untouchable. Entering the 4th chapter, picture this. A room where words tumble endlessly, where silence is treated like a threat rather than a gift. You've met these people, the ones who fill every pause as if quiet might expose them. Their voices get louder, their tone more certain, but beneath the noise lies very little substance. And as you listen, something sharp and unexpected dawns on you. Every time they speak, they remind you of the dignity of silence. Now imagine the kind of noise I mean. Not the hum of a city or the chaos of traffic. It's the noise that comes when someone speaks, not to connect, but to control. They fear stillness because in stillness there is no audience, no applause, only the raw face of reality staring back at them. That's why they dominate conversations. That's why they interrupt. That's why their words stretch longer than their knowledge can carry. It isn't wisdom, it's compensation. The Stoics saw through this performance. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not true, do not say it. If it is not right, do not do it." Yet the world is full of people who speak as if words themselves can mask emptiness. They believe volume equals respect, sarcasm equals intelligence, dominance equals depth. But power has never lived in noise. It has always lived in restraint. I remember a group chat that taught me this lesson. There was a man, let's call him Jordan, always the first to comment, always the last to leave. His words, constant. Whether the topic was books, philosophy, money, or relationships, Jordan had something to say, but his voice wasn't his own. His opinions were borrowed, twisted, often soaked in negativity. It wasn't dialogue. It was theater. One day, mid-discussion, he tried to correct someone on a topic he clearly didn't understand. And in that moment, I didn't argue. I didn't roll my eyes. I simply wrote, "You know, every time you speak, it's a reminder to value silence." The chat went still. Not with awkwardness, but with clarity, because truth doesn't need to raise its voice. It only needs to be spoken once. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Some people speak not to contribute, but to be seen. They fear the quiet because quiet strips away the mask. In silence, there's no stage, no spotlight, just themselves. And that frightens them more than any insult could. They hide their insecurity under volume. They hide their emptiness behind endless commentary. But when you answer with composure, you reveal the performance for what it is. Epictetus once said, "If you wish to be a writer, write." The lesson beneath those words is simple. If you wish to have weight, create something real. Empty barrels make the most noise, and people know it. The one who cannot stop talking is usually the one who has the least to say. So what do you do when faced with this noise? You don't compete. You don't match their chaos. You don't surrender your calm to their desperation. You meet them steady, poised, unshaken, and with a quiet voice, you let the truth land. Every time you speak, it's a reminder to value silence. That one sentence does more than shut down noise. It reclaims the space. It honors the value of words. It reminds everyone listening that silence is not weakness, it is wisdom in motion, and from that wisdom comes presence. A presence that does not shout but cannot be ignored. A presence that shows strength is not in filling the air, but in choosing when not to. So, the next time someone tries to hijack the room with recycled confidence and empty commentary, remember this. Silence carries more power than their noise ever could. Stand still, speak once, then let the quiet do the work. At this stage, let's step into something raw, words thrown like stones, not to reveal truth, but to see if they can make you flinch. Most people who insult you aren't searching for honesty, they're searching for control. They want to see the crack in your armor. They want to know if they can reach into your emotions and pull the strings. And the moment you don't give it to them, the moment you don't crumble, don't explain, don't even blink, that's when they lose. Now picture this. Someone tries to cut you down with a cheap line, expecting your silence to twist into shame. But instead, you smile, calm and unshaken, and say, "If you're trying to hurt my feelings, you'll have to try harder." It's not arrogance. It's sovereignty over yourself. It's a quiet reminder that you've outgrown the version of yourself that used to bleed at every careless word. I remember when I wasn't there yet. When I was younger, words hit like stones. There was this boy, Lucas. He laughed at my clothes, sneered, "You actually think that looks good?" I played it cool in the moment, laughed with him even, but later I went home and changed. Another time someone scoffed at my ambition. "That's adorable. You think you'll actually make it?" And for weeks, I second-guessed everything. Their words lived in me rent-free. Their voices became my own. But life has a way of reshaping you, not through compliments or applause, but through rejection, betrayal, and standing alone in the ruins of what you thought was solid. You learn that your foundation cannot be built on borrowed approval, and slowly, painfully, clarity replaces the noise. The truth is this: people can only wound you deeply when you secretly believe them. Here's where the Stoics speak. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Once you know who you are, once you've survived worse storms, their cheap shots stop landing. They bounce off armor forged in fire, and you stop carrying the weight of words spoken by those who couldn't carry your story even for a day. So now, when someone throws shade, when they aim a low blow in the hope you'll bend, I don't explain, I don't defend. I look them in the eye and say, "If you're trying to hurt my feelings, you'll have to try harder. Because if you think a passive-aggressive jab will shake me, you clearly don't know my story." Here's the harsh reality. Some people feel tall only when you shrink. They want you insecure because it makes you easier to control. They want you emotional because it lets them twist the narrative. But when you stay calm, grounded and unshaken, you reclaim every inch of power they tried to steal. That one line isn't just a witty comeback, it's psychological clarity. It's a reminder, both to them and to yourself. You don't define me. Your words don't build me, and they don't break me. I've faced storms you wouldn't survive. And you think this will rattle me? That isn't denial, it's discernment. It's the refusal to let noise into your soul. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Most insults lose their teeth the moment you stop rehearsing them inside yourself. And when you've cried, failed, been misunderstood, and kept walking, a cheap insult doesn't deserve your energy. So here's what I tell you. The next time someone tries to bruise your spirit with a fake joke, a snide comment, or a pointed dig, don't rise to match their energy. Don't give them your outrage. Just smile, breathe, and calmly say, "If you're trying to hurt my feelings, you'll have to try harder." Then walk away, not in retreat, in triumph. Because the quiet of strength echoes longer than the loudest cry for attention. From here, let us step into a different kind of strength. Imagine someone throwing out a sly remark, expecting you to bite, to flare up, to let your emotions spill into their hands. They're not searching for truth. They're not searching for understanding. They're searching for control. They want to stir the waters inside you and watch the ripples spread. But then you look at them, steady, unshaken, and say, "You're not on the level to get a reaction from me." And suddenly, the stage collapses beneath them. This is where the cut lands deep, because this line does not insult. It dismisses. It does not raise its voice. It does not try to win the argument. It simply erases the argument altogether. It removes the other person from the equation entirely, as though they never qualified to be part of it. In every confrontation, there are two kinds of people: those who seek understanding and those who seek chaos. The second type doesn't debate, they perform. And their theater depends on one thing: your emotions. The Stoics warned us of this trap. Seneca said, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." To delay, to withhold the reaction they crave, is to rob them of their stage. And when you do that with calm indifference, you dismantle their performance more effectively than any sharp comeback ever could. I remember it clearly at my old workplace. There was a man, Trent. He lived on passive-aggressive remarks. He thrived on discomfort, not contribution. One day, I was presenting a new idea, carefully thought through, clean, strategic. Mid-sentence, Trent leaned back in his chair, smirked and said, "Not bad for someone who's usually 5 minutes late." The old me might have gone off, fired back, with something equally cutting. But I didn't. I turned, looked him in the eye, calm as ever, and said, "You're not on the level to get a reaction from me." And then I turned back to my presentation, like his voice had never entered the room. The energy shifted instantly, not because I shouted, but because I didn't, not because I fought, but because I rose above. Everyone saw it. Trent thrived on acknowledgement, any acknowledgement, even negative. By denying him that, without cruelty, I revealed something devastating to him: his irrelevance. Here's the deeper truth. You don't win by trading insults. You win by becoming untouchable, by making it clear that not everyone earns a seat at your emotional table. Your peace is not public property. You don't owe it to those who only arrive to disturb it. This is what they fear most: the realization that you are not hurt, not fazed, not even seeing them as an opponent. You see them as background noise. And when you deliver that line with calm precision, you're not on the level to get a reaction from me. You are telling them something they cannot bear, that their power over you never existed, that their attempt to provoke you has been reduced to silence. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "You always own the option of having no opinion. Things you cannot control are not worth your anger. Your reaction is the stage. Your calm is the demolition. That is why silence lingers longer than any insult." So how do you deliver it? With composure. Look them in the eye. Say it steady. Then shift your focus elsewhere. Change the subject. Continue your work. Walk away if you must. Do not explain. Do not repeat. Let your silence linger longer than their attitude. Because in a world where people are desperate to be seen, desperate to feel important by getting a rise out of others, indifference is the ultimate disruption. It is the storm they cannot withstand because it never even touches you. So the next time someone tries to bait you into their circus, remember this. You don't have to step into the ring. You don't have to fight clowns in their own tent. Stand steady. Say it calm. You're not on the level to get a reaction from me. And then carry on as if the storm never touched you, because in truth, it didn't. Advancing to the 7th chapter, let's bring the mask into focus. You've seen it before, the smirk that hides more than it reveals, the clever-sounding jab dressed up as humor, tossed like a dart into the room. It doesn't roar, it doesn't even raise an eyebrow, and yet it carries one intention only, to chip away at you so they can feel taller. But here's the truth, most don't say aloud. Arrogance is often just armor, and inside that armor lies insecurity trembling to be found. Now imagine the power of a single line, spoken calmly, without anger, without heat. That was a lot of effort just to sound insecure. You're not fighting back, you're not trading insults, you're holding up a mirror. And for someone hiding behind performance, being seen like that is unbearable. I remember the moment it became real to me. I had been working for weeks on a project, pouring myself into the details, chasing precision, polishing every part. The day came to present it. The room fell silent as I laid it out, piece by piece, until one colleague, let's call him Darren, leaned back in his chair, lips curled, and said, "Well, I guess confidence really can make anything sound smart." A cheap dig, wrapped as a joke. His words weren't designed to sharpen me. They were meant to shrink me. The old me would have defended, explained, tried to prove the worth of what I'd made. But instead, I smiled and answered softly, "That was a lot of effort just to sound insecure." The silence that followed was heavy, not awkward, clear. Darren had no ground to stand on. He didn't get a laugh. He got exposed, and the room felt it. Everyone saw what had really happened. The joke had never been about wit. It had been a mask for weakness. Here's the deeper truth. Most insults are not about you. They are about the person throwing them, their desperate attempts to feel in control, to matter, to be seen. And when you don't react, when you stay calm, composed, unshaken, they lose the one thing they crave most: leverage. Their words bounce back at them. Their insecurity, once hidden, is suddenly lit up for everyone to see. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "If someone despises me, that's their problem. My only concern, am I doing what's right?" And this is the essence of it. Their voice is not your compass. Their comment is not your definition. Your stillness is proof you belong to yourself. The secret is in the pause. After you say it, "That was a lot of effort just to sound insecure." Stop. Let silence speak for you. Don't explain. Don't soften it. Don't add. Just let them sit with the truth you've handed them. The sting isn't in the words. It's in the silence that shows everyone the truth. Think about it. When someone throws shade masked as wit, when they try to cut you down under the disguise of humor, they expect noise in return. They expect you to defend, to react, to give them proof they mattered. But when you stay steady, when you expose the motive without malice, you dismantle their illusion, you flip the power. Suddenly, you're not the one being diminished. They are. And here's the lesson the Stoics would underline. Restraint is not weakness, it's mastery. Seneca wrote, "He who has injured you was either stronger or weaker. If weaker, spare him. If stronger, spare yourself." To answer calmly without heat is to prove that their arrows cannot reach you. So let me leave you with this. The next time someone hides a jab inside a laugh, the next time their words are less about you and more about the shadow they can't face, smile. Say it calmly, without flinching. That was a lot of effort just to sound insecure. And then let silence do the rest. Because when you master your response, you master the moment. And when you master the moment, you become untouchable. These comebacks are not just clever phrases, they are quiet boundaries. They are calm declarations that remind you of a truth the Stoics lived by. Not everyone deserves your energy. Some people are loud because silence terrifies them. Some try to provoke you because they need proof that you can still be shaken. But strength is not proven by how loudly you answer. It is proven by how deeply you remain untouched. When someone throws insults your way, remember this: their storm does not have to become your storm. You do not have to match their volume or dance to their chaos. Real power is not in the shouting, the fighting, or the endless explanations. It rests in the stillness of one steady sentence, spoken with clarity, like a scalpel cutting through noise. That kind of silence carries weight. It lingers long after the moment ends. And in that silence, the one who tried to control you is left with nothing but the echo of their own words. So the next time you face rudeness, hold your ground, look them in the eye, speak calmly, then walk away, not in weakness, but in focus. Because your life is bigger than petty battles. You have better things to build, a mind to sharpen, a peace to protect. Each time you refuse to be dragged into the storm, you reclaim a piece of yourself. Each time you choose composure over reaction, you grow stronger. If this message spoke to you, let it settle in. Take a breath and carry it with you into the next encounter. Leave a comment with 2 simple words. Stay silent. Anchor it in your mind. Remind yourself that power often moves quietly. And if you want to keep walking this path of strength and stillness, subscribe so we can keep learning together. Not out of noise, not out of pressure, but out of choice. Remember, you are not here to please every voice or answer every critic. You are here to rise above them, to stand tall, to protect your center. So walk forward with calm steps, knowing the next lesson is waiting, and when it comes, you will be ready.